Today we're gonna be talking about my boy Terence Crawford, aka Bud. For those of y'all that don't know Bud Crawford, he was champion at 35, he was champion at 40, he was champion at 47, and he just became champion at 154. Now, what's so unique about his championships at 40 and 47 was he is two-time undisputed. For those of y'all that don't know what that is, that means that he held every single belt out of the 4-belt era in both divisions, right? So Terence Crawford is one of the best ever. Now, I know there's been a lot of stagnant with him fighting, and he fights once a year. We haven't seen him since Madrimov. Before that, we hadn't seen him since Errol Spence. I mean, he has 2 fights in the last 22 months, right? So what this video is going to be about is what I think is next for Terence Crawford. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, he did move up to 154. When he moved up to 154, he fought Israel Madrimov. Now, for the people that aren't really that well versed in what moving up really does, I know a lot of people say he went from 147 to 154. It's just 7 pounds. You look in life, if you gain 5 to 6 pounds, you don't think of it as that much of a difference, right? But when you move up to 154, you're talking about you're fighting guys that are stronger. You're fighting guys that have been there for a long time, so their strength is a little different than the guys at 147. And we're not talking about a guy that was walking around at 5'11", who was naturally big. Terence Crawford is 5'8", 5'9", and started his career at 135. He started his career 15 years ago, 20 pounds lighter, right? So another thing I want to point out is Terence Crawford is 38 years old, right? He is not young. Now, he has been on record saying that during his training camps, he loves to get the young guys in there because it makes him feel more youthful, right? He preaches that training camps is what gets him ready, right? Having guys like Keyshawn Davis around, these guys who are just really good and really sharp. He's 38 years old, but in the boxing world, he's not really 38. To put into perspective, Canelo Alvarez is 33 or 34 years old, but Canelo has 60 fights, right? So you can kind of look at the damage on their bodies, how they move, the explosiveness, the athleticism, how it's, slightly decreasing in Canelo, but he's 4 years younger than Terence Crawford, right? And actually, it's perfect that I mentioned Canelo because that's what we're going to go into next. For Bud Crawford, I don't think there is a specific fight out there besides Canelo that will really interest him and his team, right? Like I said, he is 38 years old. He beat Errol Spence in a big match. Probably it was really the fight of the last 5 to 6 years, right? Now, it probably didn't live up to the hype, obviously, because Errol Spence was so overmatched. But nonetheless, the build up to it, the 12-week camp, everything, right? And like I said earlier, he's 2-time undisputed. So when you talk about accomplishments, the only thing that Terence Crawford really is shooting for is legacy. Now, I've seen guys say he needs to fight Jaron Ennis. I've seen guys say he needs to fight the guy that just beat Tim Tszyu and Bakram. I've seen guys say that he should fight Fundor. All these fights that people are saying that he should fight, it doesn't really do anything for him legacy-wise or fiscally, right? And what I mean by that is he's going to get the same amount of money fighting Bakram as he is fighting Jaron Ennis. Like, none of these are really big fights. Terence Crawford spent the bulk of his career fighting fights like that, right? Fighting the gritty fights versus top guys in a division, eliminators, contenders, etc. So at 38 years old, he's not really chasing that. That's not really doing anything for his legacy. So what I think is the next step for Terence Crawford is to fight Canelo. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really agree with it at first because I'm like, that's too many weight classes. He's coming up from 147. Canelo is a bigger guy. Obviously, they're pretty similar in height, but when you talk about how muscular, how big Canelo is, he's bigger than him, right? His body retains more mass than him. But as I've been watching more Terence Crawford film, Terence Crawford is a fighter, man. He's a dog. His style stretches from boxing to fighting, right? And he's 38 years old. Now, I was completely against it, but after seeing Jermell Charlo hop up 2 weight classes and fight Canelo and him basically running the entire time, I have no doubt in my mind that Terence Crawford can put up a better fight than Jermell Charlo did, right? Obviously, he's more accomplished than Jermell Charlo. I think he's personally a better fighter than Jermell Charlo. So the next big thing for Terence Crawford is Canelo. Now, Canelo is kind of in the same spot as Bud, whereas he says, if I beat Bud, people are going to say that he jumped up 2 weight classes and it doesn't really do anything for him legacy-wise. But then on the flip side, it's probably a big money fight. You go to Saudi Arabia, you look at Turkey, he wants to make this fight happen, right? This is a complete career-altering fight for Bud Crawford. For Canelo, it's not really, so it has to make sense on the monetary side of things for Canelo. Ultimately, I think this fight is going to happen. I don't think Canelo is going to go out here and fight Caleb Plant again. I don't think he's going to fight Chris and Billy. I don't think he's going to fight. At this point, I think the fight is good for both sides. If Turkey is saying, here, I got 50 to 60 million for you, Canelo. I got another 30, 40 million for you, Bud. That's the biggest fight in boxing, right? Even though Bud is jumping up 2 weight classes, Bud is arguably the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, right? And you have to dare to be great. We look back at fighters like Roy Jones, who jumped up to heavyweight, jumped back down to light heavyweight. This is what boxing is made of. Guys challenging themselves, hopping up, hopping down, fighting the best guys in the world. Ultimately, these are 2 pound for pound good fighters. Both of them are, I wouldn't say they're in their prime physically, but they're in their prime fighting wise, as I don't think their fighting style can get any better, right? These are 2 boxers at the top of their game. And ultimately, I think the fight should happen. I think everyone should be able to witness 2 pound for pound greats battle it out. We don't get a lot of that nowadays. We got a lot of guys who take fights who are easier. We got a lot of guys building up records. We got, boxing, it was in a really weird state, but I think Turkey has the right idea on how to build boxing back up, right? So what's next for Terence Crawford? I would say Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez in 2025. I'm not sure how soon, because I did hear that Terence Crawford did suffer an injury in a fight versus Madrimov. But if I could target it, I would say August 2025, Canelo versus Bud Crawford for all the coins, right? Big money, undisputed at 168. The way they can market that fight would be insane, right? So now my pick for the fight, I usually teeter back and forth until fight week comes. I like to see their camps. I like to see the day in the lives, the all accesses, their mindset, the face-offs. But if I had to bet money right now, I would probably pick Canelo Alvarez, because he's the bigger man, and it's not like he's big and he's uncoordinated, or he's big and not skilled, right? Canelo Alvarez is arguably one of the most skilled boxers to ever lace him up. Everybody knows that, right? But obviously, I don't want to count a guy like Bud out, right? I've seen Bud throughout his career, and that's all that's been happening his whole career. He's been counted out. So I'm not going to sit here and say Bud can't beat Canelo, right? So obviously, I think he'll be outmatched initially just from the size aspect. But once you see the camp, the preparation, and that's another thing. Bomac is a great trainer. Bomac will get Terence Crawford ready for any and everything, right? So I'm not going to sit here and talk y'all heads off no more, but that's what I think next for Terence Crawford. Everybody relax on saying he should be undisputed at 154. I mean, he's 38 years old, right? The 154 fight against Madrimov was not easy. Probably took a toll on him body-wise. He's like, damn. So I think that's what we should look forward to. Everybody relax. Turkey got us. If it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. If it doesn't, oh well. All right. Thank y'all for coming out. I'm going to be uploading these videos a little more. Drop a like, drop a comment, tell me what y'all want me to talk about next. All right.